Well, let's start the show by looking at the top story that we're tracking for you. Canada is preparing to hit back at the United States with new tariffs on a range of American goods. Now, Prime Minister Mark Carney says that the measures will target U.S. steel, electronics, dairy, appliances, agricultural equipment, pulp and paper. Now, the tariffs are set to take effect on 8th of September. Well, listen into this.
Canada will match Washington's new tariffs dollar for dollar in order to protect Canadian workers, farmers, families and businesses. Our response will be concentrated in sectors such as steel, dairy, appliances, agricultural equipment, pulp and paper, and electronics. We'll also include products that are currently subject to unjustified Section 232 and 338 tariffs.
Carney says Canada will match Washington's new tariffs dollar for dollar. Well, he says the response is designed to protect Canadian workers, farmers, families and businesses. Canada will also include products already subject to U.S. Section 232 and 338 tariffs.
This is a focused response to protect and defend our industries and allow them to compete with U.S. products in the Canadian market. In the coming days, we'll release details of these new tariff measures which will come into force the Tuesday after Labor Day.
Well, this announcement comes after 3 days of intense trade negotiations which failed to produce a deal. Now, the talks collapsed last Friday with both sides blaming the other for the breakdown. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer says Washington had offered tariff reductions in sectors including steel and aluminum, but Canada refused to accept the final terms. While Carney says Washington made last-minute changes to its proposal that Canada could not accept, well, one of the major disputes involved the auto industry. Carney says the U.S. sought changes to the treatment of Canadian content in vehicles and wanted to limit the scope of the auto arrangement. He says that could have affected production of medium and heavy-duty vehicles in Canada. Carney also says Washington tried to restrict Canada's ability to negotiate trade deals with other countries. He called that unacceptable, saying Canada must be able to pursue its own economic partnerships. Now, the breakdown follows the United States imposing new 50% tariffs on around $20 billion worth of Canadian goods. The duties cover products including wine, furniture, dairy, cement, clothing, fishing equipment and hockey gear. Now, the new U.S. levies do not provide the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement or USMCA exemptions that had protected most Canadian exports to the United States. The economic stakes are high here. The United States takes in the vast majority of Canada's exports, meaning tariffs can hit factories, supply chains and businesses on both sides of the border. Higher import costs could also eventually feed through to customers. Carney says Canada is ready to respond, but the door to negotiations is not necessarily closed. For now, however, the two countries are heading into a new phase of the trade conflict, with U.S. tariffs already in place and Canada's dollar-for-dollar response set to follow on 8th of September.